It's 29 minutes after 6 here on the AM show. Time for us to do the newspapers, review the newspapers, touch base online as well, and welcome your messages on the show. But it's a special day because of the biggest announcement that came out yesterday from the presidency, the firing of the Electoral Commissioner, Charlotte Osei, and 2 of her deputies. We have a guest joining us for the review segment, so we can open up a few issues. Kwame Echampong Boateng is a private legal practitioner. He's one of the lawyers for one of the sites that petitioned the president, the results of which we see today in the firing of the Electoral Commissioner and 2 of her deputies. So let's welcome you onto the show. Good morning to you. Thank you for being here.
Morning, Malavi.
Yeah. Good morning to you.
Morning.
It's been a while.
Yes, it's...
We want to go through some of the newspapers because obviously this story is the biggest. I'm not sure all the papers did get the opportunity to put it in their papers because it came quite a bit later in the day. But the graphic certainly did get it. So on the front page of the Daily Graphic this morning, EC bosses fired. Presidents implement recommendations of Chief Justice Committee. And there's a picture of a thinking electoral commissioner. Well, former electoral commissioner now, Charlotte Osei, on the front page of the paper. You see that on your screens in the bits. Also, Mr. Amadou Sule, Mrs. Georgina Opoku Amankwa. Comes across as though they're all kind of deeply thinking about something. Not exactly sure, but this was not taken yesterday. But also on the front page, no more direct postings. Health Service Director General announces. And in Fansipem, Ghana National Adisadel qualify for next stage of National Science Maths Quiz. And former Attorney General takes international court position. That's Mrs. Marietta Brew Apia Opong. Front page headlines, Daily Graphic newspaper. A bit of the other stories, and then we'll go to the big issue, which is on the Electoral Commissioner first. Former Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Mrs. Marietta Biopong, has been appointed as a member of the International Court of Arbitration. Her appointment follows the International Chamber of Commerce World Council meeting, which took place in Paris on June 21, 2018. A letter dated June 27, 2018, and signed by the president of the ICC, said her appointment would take effect from July 1, 2018 to June 30, 2021. Well, you can read on. There's a bit about her profile, her role as Attorney General, and then other leadership roles that she's occupied. Well, from us and the entire team, we wish her well with this new appointment. Absolutely deserves it. I think one of the last things that she did after bowing out as Attorney General was that case, C case, that matter with Ivory Coast. And that was a landmark case for us. We won, and she was at the center of this as well with the present Attorney General and all the other legal brains that worked on that case. Council of State members get Ghana card. That's where we are now with the Ghana card. But I think there's another story on the front page that I wanted to look at just before we go to the EC story. That is on page 16 in the Daily Graphic newspaper. Here we go. The Ghana Health Service has said it intends to abolish direct posting of health professionals to public health institutions after their graduation. Rather, health personnel should be allowed to search for jobs themselves, apply and attend interviews before accepting postings to health institutions. And speaking at the ceremony at the opening of the Christian Health Association of Ghana 2018 annual conference in Sunyani last Wednesday, Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Anthony Nsia Asare, called for an urgent solution to staffing challenges in the country. And this is certainly something that would generate other conversations. Would have students say what they think about this. But let's go to page 3, Roland. The reason lawyer Echampong Boateng is with us this early morning, which is unusual even for him. President Akufo-Addo has relieved the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Mrs. Charlotte Osei, and 2 deputies, Mr. Amadou Sule and Mrs. Georgina Opoku Amankwa, of their posts with immediate effect. A statement signed by the Minister of Information, Dr. Mustafa Abdul Hamid, and issued in Accra yesterday, said the decision by the President followed recommendations by the committee set up by the Chief Justice, Ms. Justice Sophia Ekufo, to investigate separate complaints brought against the 3 persons by some Ghanaians. So with one of the lawyers of the petitioners here, we'll leave the details of that to him. First of all, is this what you anticipated was going to happen, firing of the Electoral Commissioner and her deputies?
Absolutely. This is exactly what we wanted, and we eventually got it. Right.
So what were your issues in summary?
Well, let me take you back a little so that we understand this whole proceedings. Right. If you recall, about probably 9 or 10 months ago, it was in the news that some employees of the Electoral Commission have petitioned that the chairperson be removed. And this petition actually was issued out by lawyer Maxwell Pukwajimai. You remember him? Yes, he's a lecturer at Ghana Law School. Now, our processes and procedures are such that, going by the Constitution, when the President receives this petition, all he does is to hand it over to the CJ in its raw form. It is for the CJ, according to law, to interrogate the integrity of the proceeding, of the petition, to ascertain whether they don't contain frivolities, and to be sure that the prima facie case has been made in all or some of the allegations. If she so determines, then the next step is for her to set up a committee made up of 5 people, 3 being judges of the Superior Court of Adjudicature, who come on the recommendation of the Judicial Council, and then the other 2 being non-lawyers, non-parliamentarians, but who come on board on the recommendations of the Council of State. When he gets these 5, then he gives them the allegations to be investigated. You realize that when we filed this petition, it contained more than 20 grounds, allegations, so that the CJ went through and limited it to just 6 of them, because some of them couldn't go through the safety net. That's right. So all the 6 were related to procurement issues, strictly procurement issues. So then we started hearing, and that is where you hear people all over, some section of the population claiming this to be a frivolous petition that has been issued out by faceless people and stuff
politically
like that.
Motivated.
Politically motivated and all those derogatory adjectives. But at the end of the day, we went through trial, and the proceedings went smoothly. There were people who came out from the Electoral Commission to testify based on the witness statement that we have all filed. They were cross-examined, and at the end of the day, everybody was given the chance to defend his or her statement, witness statement that has been filed. And they ended by what has just come out. So when they got it, when they finally captured their recommendations, all they did was to forward it to the Chief Justice, who also forwarded it in its raw state to the President, for the President to implement it. And that has been implemented. So far, that is what has happened.
Now, for the benefit of the viewing public, right. Let's say you give us a benefit of the doubt, we don't have a copy of the recommendation, or perhaps the report.
Right.
What does the report in summary say in relation to each of the allegations, if you can recall? Now,
the report itself has not been issued out officially. So I'll speak just as a lawyer from the Commission based on even the addresses that we filed. If we are being told that we were found to have proven all the allegations on the 6 that went through the safety net, then in summary, all that the committee found was that the Electoral Commissioner was in breach of the procurement procedures as stipulated in the Public Procurement Act with regard to goods and services that were procured by the Commission.
In relation to that, there were some, if I remember, specifics of the 6 allegations.
Right.
One in relation to a composition, rehabilitation, as well as refurbishment and the building of a new website.
Right.
What in your allegations was untoward in the way the processes for the procurement of a contractor for building a website was?
Okay, I won't just limit it to just this ground that you're talking about with regard to maybe
the website
or whatever. Now, in total, the general finding which I suspect, I'll use suspect because, as I said, I haven't cited official commission report and recommendation, is that all the procurement procedures as dictated by the Public Procurement Act were breached. What does it entail? What it entails is that for the procurement of goods and services in any entity, you go through a particular procedure. One, you advertise so that everybody who has the wherewithal, the know-how, or the goods that you want can come forward and bid. If it goes through that, there are 3 steps going through the entity tender. There's a review there. Before, at the end of the day, you go to public procurement, the public procurement office itself to seek approval. You see, in most of the cases, our allegations are that they go out there, seek for approval for, let's say, $7 million, but the actual award of contract goes in excess of $14 million. It's something similar. I'm not saying exactly because I don't have the facts before me. You understand? So those are some of the things that happen. And other times, they don't go through procurement procedures at all. No advert. They look around and pick some 2 people or 1 person and decides to award.
But were these procurement allegations part of your petition?
Precisely.
Okay.
These were part of our allegations, the allegations that we leveled. So in all, the procedures were not adhered to, and the act itself makes the chairperson, or the person that the chairperson will delegate for this particular function, fully culpable for any liability that comes out of the act or omission.
So your petition was towards the electoral commissioner herself?
Yes, let me explain. There were 3 petitions that were heard by the panel. Now, one was for the removal of the chairperson. The other 2 were for the removal of the other deputies, right? Now, the matters were not heard together. They were heard independently independent of each one by the panel. So at the end of the day, the panel wrote recommendations on the 3 different petitions that they had. Ours was for the removal of the chairperson. That is it. Okay.
So can you explain to us how the process, this inquiry, is it like a court setup because you say you cross-examine and things like that?
Well, part of the process, weren't you?
Yes.
How different was that process
from
the
normal
one that we know?
I wasn't a witness. I was a part of the legal team.
Fantastic.
So we were always in there to hear the proceedings and maybe to help in cross-examination or whatever. And the lead advocate for our team was Opukwaji. Now, what happens is this. Unfortunately, the Constitution just gives us the general areas and procedures. Now, for these general areas and procedures to be properly operationalized, there's a need for a constitutional instrument that will bring out the regulations properly. So that, for instance, if we take ordinary litigation, that you go to court, we first issued a writ. After the writ, you go through a certain process, case management, then now you get into the box, you cross-examine this, that, until judgment. This particular process doesn't have that format because none has been designed for it. And maybe it is time for our lawmakers to look at this because it creates a vacuum, and at any point in time, it is left to the discretion of the panel to decide. For us, in our case, we all agreed, the panel suggested, and we all agreed that we are going to use
all parties?
All parties.
Okay.
And we all agreed that we're going to use the CI-47, that is the Civil Procedure Rules, and adapt and adjust as and when necessary.
Okay.
So at least we had an idea how we could go about this thing. So you go in there. First, we're all supposed to file what we call a witness statement. The witness statement is a statement containing your story. So I, so-and-so, I work here, I live here, I'm an employee of so-and-so, I make this statement on this, on that. These are my allegations. I think that the chairperson has misconducted themselves, and for that matter, he should be removed. That is your witness statement. And then the other side will cross-examine you on the witness statement. That is the person who deposed to that witness statement.
So in this case, yes, the Electoral Commissioner and her lawyers.
And her lawyers, that's right. So on our side, one of the petitioners did the witness statement for and on behalf of all the petitioners. So there was one that went through. And then thereafter, we had to subpoena a lot of officials. Some members from Electoral Commission, which includes the Director of Finance, Asamoah, who is even on interdiction as we speak now, due to some of the issues that cropped up in there. We subpoenaed the Executive Secretary or Executive Director of the Public Procurement Office. He also came because this had to do with procurement matters. And we subpoenaed other commissioners. There are some of the other commissioners. In fact,
in office.
In office. So what happened was that almost all the commissioners came to testify, either for or against the removal. Yes, so it went through that procedure. Then at the end of the day, we're instructed to write our addresses. Our addresses is made up of putting our story and the evidence and whatever that we have together and buttressing it with the law, and then make our case that based on these allegations which we believe or feel we have proven before you, and these laws in the Procurement Act, we feel that Madam Chairperson should be removed. So that is what happened.
Now, the committee session, does it look like a court session?
Yes, but it's...
and the rules and procedures?
Yes, as I said, with the rules, we all agreed to adopt the CI 47. That is the rules of the civil procedure. But it looks like a court session, but it's a very informal atmosphere. Right. You understand? So that that tension and stuff that you see in a conventional courtroom was
for all parties. Yes. In making the argument, were there some precedents from other jurisdictions of law that were used?
Yes, that came in our addresses. On our side, for instance, I said we brought on board a constitutional impeachment expert from America. He's a Ghanaian anyway, Ochredako. So he also brought what happened for things in America in some of these matters. And all these things came into fore, and it helps us put together a very cogent address which managed to convince the panel that we've made our case.
From the layman point of view, and today I was, early this morning I was speaking to one of yours who is also a lawyer, so to speak, not part of the petitioners though, and he made the point that what was contained in your petition were acts of maladministration and perhaps abuse of discretionary administrative powers that are encountered in many public offices. So what happened in the Electoral Commission and the administrative or the daily administrative workings of it untoward or perhaps peculiar?
Okay, now if you look at the law under which we came to remove the chairperson, the Constitution says that the chairperson who is akin to a Court of Appeal judge can be removed only on about 3 grounds. One, stated misbehavior, misconducting herself, or inability to perform her functions. Now, we are dwelling on stated misbehavior. What will constitute stated misbehavior in this context? Now, she was working as a public officer. And normally, for a public officer, your work is regulated by the laws that pertain to your functions. Now, one of these is the Public Procurement Act, which deals with procurement of goods and services in there. So that for us to determine whether you have misbehaved or not, what we should note is that if you either negligently or deliberately or in any other way fail to adhere to the regulations that will actually dictate the practices in your office, it amounts to misbehavior.
And in any other way could mean inadvertent?
Well, inadvertence, well, that I will accept that, you understand? But you see, what happened in our case, and which we made forcefully in our address, is that we were able to establish a pattern of behavior. It wasn't 1, it wasn't 2, 6 And for all, they contain the same ingredients. You are supposed to take it to the entity tender board. I won't take it.
First, there's supposed to be a tender evaluation before you get to
Maybe you will do the tender evaluation. There are other 3-4 steps that we have to go through. We won't do that. And then before we say, Jack, the contract had been signed. Maybe we go in there, we take approval for a threshold, a limit. We come back and we award the contract in excess of the threshold. Okay. Some in excess of our 100%.
How about the aspects, Roland, before you come in? How about the aspects of I didn't know I had to go through the procurement?
Because in addition to that, I wanted to add that it could have been an inherited, stated administrative misbehavior. Something that is normal.
And then also, before you come in, why didn't we attempt to stop? Why did we wait for it to accumulate before?
Because there were officers who operated within the entity.
I understand. Now, listen, I didn't know. That will be, I don't know the adjective to use in describing it. If the chairperson who's just been removed uses that as a defense. You know her standing, right? She's a lawyer, several years in practice in Ghana. And then in the course of the trial, so to speak, it was established that he had absolute control and knowledge of the Public Procurement Act, so that at any point in time, if she decides not to adhere to it, it's deliberate. It was established. Because there were emails and even memos she herself has sent out.
If you say established, was she cross-examined to elicit a response from her that she says in her knowledge she understands the content of the Public Procurement Act?
Not just in cross-examination, by some acts that she has done while she was there. And in some instances, the fact that she went ahead and even cancelled some of the contracts that has already been secured on the basis that they breached the Public Procurement Act. So that is it. So as for this, I didn't know, and I don't think it's a good defense at all.
The recommendation. Yes. So what we've seen, it's not official because nobody has officially, but it ends with, after the conclusion, we've got the recommendation. Is that like a judgment?
Precisely.
We're trying to compare the formal.
Now, this is what happens. It is a committee. Let's say it's a ruling of a committee. Now, you can look at it as a judgment because immediately it comes out, the Chief Justice just acts as a conveyor of the proceedings to the President. The President does not have any option than to implement it. So that immediately it comes out, it binds everybody. So what I would say to an extent that yes, this is a judgment.
So is it one that can be appealed?
There's no provision to that effect. Maybe this is a new area that can be tested elsewhere, whether it can be appealed. But if you look at the proceedings as outlined in the Constitution, 146, it goes and ends at where the President implements the recommendation. Finito. There's no process for appeal.
Can she fight the allegations?
And in what quarters? Will it be at the Supreme Court?
Now, let me bring this to your knowledge. Now, immediately the petition was filed, the chairperson on her own issued a defamation writ against Maxwell Opoku-Agyeman, the lawyer who did it. So that matter is pending in court. And in fact, the facts of that matter are the same facts that we used in prosecuting this matter before the committee.
But this one is separate, irrespective of the conclusion it draws.
This is separate. That is it. This is separate. We say you are incompetent and you have misbehaved, so it's defamation.
And it's been established by the committee.
It has been established by the committee. Well, maybe.
So, but can you use this committee's arguments? Can you use this committee's conclusion in making arguments in that case?
But of course, that is what we are going to use. But because we have filed our statement of defense and we have itemized all these things that we did in our what we did in our address.
Right.
That is it. Okay. We thought it was a premature writ that was issued.
One more thing for me. If you look at unofficially what the documents that we have, misbehavior and the breach of the Procurement Act amounts or constitute to some kind of offense, which comes with some punishment, including imprisonment. Is that one that you're going to pursue?
Well, that, you know, we don't have prosecutorial powers. That is left with the Attorney General or the Special Prosecutor to take that part out. But it is clear.
But what's your expectation?
Well, I want the law to go its full hog. That is it. So it's for the AG and the Special Prosecutor to decide whether, based on what they have seen in the recommendations, they have grounds to prosecute. If they have, and it's a serious matter, you can go in for 5 years and be mulcted in fined for about 12,000 penalty units.
Well, we do understand
or both, yes.
All right.
Now, but in order also not to take our minds off the argument we were making before, perhaps maybe the explanation we're seeking from you about which quarters or whether she can appeal in any way. Can she appeal to the Supreme Court then? Is that the only...
Everybody can go to the Supreme Court.
Okay.
But as I said, the procedures and rules does not stipulate that. For us, this is the end of the road for her. If she feels that there should be some opening and she has to want to go to another forum for adjudication of this same matter, so be it.
Yeah, just finally before we say goodbye to you, have we seen anything like this before? I know we witnessed the removal of the Shrash boss.
Right.
But this particular one, have we seen anything like this? This is quite
within our
different from
jurisdiction,
that process.
No. This is the first time for EC, no. But as you rightly pointed out, previously there's been this petition, the Shrash, is it the Shrash? Yes, the Shrash petition. Yeah. And the committee also came to some conclusion that she should be removed. So that is it. Let's all help. We are developing our law.
Is the NPP anywhere close? Is the NPP influencing this?
No. So far as I know, so far as the legal team is concerned.
No help, absolutely, from the
absolutely no help. They haven't come in under any guise at all.
All right. We want to say thank you.
I thought we
okay, Roland has a list of...
Well, we could exhaust some questions there. And this one is just your mind as a lawyer.
Okay.
Okay. So now there's a vacuum at the Electoral Commission. So what happens? What are the constitutional remedies to fill in that vacuum? How long can we have the vacuum filled?
It can be today. It can be tomorrow. There's no stipulated time period within which it should be filled. But definitely, if you look at what is happening at the commission and maybe the assignments in front of them, I believe this is a vacuum that should be filled immediately. And as you know, it's strictly the prerogative of the president, even though it goes through certain protocols before it gets sealed. So that is, but as I said, I'm sure that as the statement that was issued from Flagstaff House, Jubilee House, they had to hand over to the head of HR, who hold the fort until a substantive commissioner is put in there. Right.
All right. Thank you.
Roland, your list was very tall.
Yes, it's okay. We'll have Martin Pebu also around, so we can ask some of the questions.
Mr. Champon Boateng, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
We will follow through with how the other... When is that being heard, the defamation?
Yes, we are at the case management stage, and we believe now that this is over, we'll kickstart. But you see, they are the plaintiffs. And one way of trying to fight is they've been knocked out here. I don't know whether they will have the courage to continue, because it is not likely to get any different outcome or attention than what has happened here. Yeah.
Your smile kind of suggests that you don't expect them to continue pursuing that.
You see, I suspect they may not come back.
All right. But you stay with us a bit because we have other newspapers to do.
Right.
So Roland will go through the Daily Guide. The Daily Guide, and then we'll say goodbye to Mr. Kwame.
So we have other stories on the front page of the Daily Guide beyond the subject of the sacking or removal of the EC. It says Speaker shuts down Ablakwa. We know that it's in relation to a statement he wanted to make on his foreign trip to the shores of the Mediterranean and elsewhere in Europe concerning migrant refugees who are holed up in various shelters, particularly in the city of Valencia, where he visited in Spain. And then we also have Kufuor Claire's air on Ghana card, etc. And we're waiting for Benedict also, but we'll take this opportunity also to ask you, what's your own personal and your own legal interpretation to the addition and the advocacy for the addition of the
use of the
voters ID card as one of the additional documents we need for making entry into the database?
Personally, I think it is one of the most crucial documents that we possess as Ghanaians. And for that matter, it would be good if we include it. I don't have any doubt about it at all. But you see, the fact of the matter is that there's a law that is binding the National Identification Authority. In that law, this particular document has been excluded. What they have to do is to go back to Parliament, get it amended, fix it in there, and then it will work. This idea of outside and maybe press conferences and stuff like that will not amend the law. And definitely, the National Identification Authority will not go against the law. That's it.
So as an ordinary citizen, if you want to, can you petition Parliament? Who do you petition to consider the usage or the amendments of the law? How do you go about it?
Now, normally for Ghana, we normally don't have a private bill that normally gets passed into law. And I heard rumors that one or two were being put together. But you see, you realize that the fight itself, in quotes, is in Parliament itself. That's right. So members of the
document has moved away from Parliament.
But then they can start putting in processes for the amendment to be debated.
But do you agree? There are ordinary citizens in our country, perhaps away from the bigger cities, etc., where there's a mode of transport, there's quick access or easy access to the means by which you can get the birth certificate or even a passport, for which the only means of identification is the voter's ID card. Right.
So that if we don't use that, then we are going to disadvantage them. That's your point?
Yes.
Well, but you realize that I've gone through the law, and there are other processes you can use as well. And this has to do with the identification of you as a Ghanaian by some members of the community. Yes, why won't we take advantage of that whilst we make provisions to table an amendment to the NI law?
All right. Well, thank you very much for the morning.
Yeah. I think today is one of those days. We're hearing some really bad news, but we're trying to cross-check. So all those sending us messages to get confirmation, just hold on. You hear it first here on JoyNews. We'll bring you that confirmation. Not so good news that we're hearing in our country this day. We'll bring you a confirmation. Just stay put right here on JoyNews. A quick run through the rest of the papers that we have. The Ghanaian Times newspaper front page: arrest troublemakers in Osu. Osu Traditional Council seem to be calling. Chiefs must be MPs. Nana SKB Asante, this is attributed to him. Story on page 16. Adams Mahama case, court slams states. UN prosecutor vows to bring Rwandan genocide fugitives to justice. AC boss, 2 deputies fired. That's the conversation that we've been having. Razak Isaka wins 5th edition of MTN Apps Challenge program. These are the front page headlines. The Ghanaian Times newspaper today. So this bit about court slamming the state. Justice Lawrence Lacazette-Mensah, High Court judge, yesterday expressed concern at the way the state is prosecuting the case in which Gregory Afoko is standing trial for allegedly murdering Adams Mahama, a former Upper East Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party. That's in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Back page of the paper: Africa's campaign ends as Senegal crash out on fair play rules. England bow to Belgium, face Colombia in last 16. So back page, Ghanaian Times newspaper. Let's do the Finder newspaper front page of the Finder now. Tallow battles $277 million court case is on the front page. Also stars on parade for Globe Mega Music Laughter Fest shows. App developers need government support to create jobs, according to MTN. Repeal law on dual allegiance and office holding exclusions. Professor Asari saying there, Mrs. Apia Opong to serve on ICC for 3 years. That's a former Attorney General. And the last one, the Business and Financial Times. Front page, water, timber imports imminent, according to Frimpong Boateng. He's warning and decries rate of environmental degradation. Agri sector still not out of the woods. Central Bank expected to reduce policy rates, Standard Bank saying. And I did say the last paper, but there's the Daily Dispatch newspaper. So let's finish up with the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Kweku Bako says, notice, I will investigate Owusu Bempa and other pastors. Former AG Marietta Opong, appointed member of ICC. GCNet wins 2018 Trade Facilitation Awards. These are the front page headlines, the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Now, let's do a bit of your messages just before we cross over. Benedict is standing by. He should stand by. After all, there's no African nation going into the knockout stage. So punishment for him. Stand by, Benedict. This one says, we like ladies to top officials, but what our EC boss has done is not above the law. Abdul Mumin Lengbinsi sending us this message. Okay, so somebody... Fidel Castro Sechi from Pando wanted that question of is MPP influencing this, as in the removal of the Electoral Commission, the petition, and what it has resulted in. This one says, NDC must be serious and follow issues, not their emotions. Ghana is bigger than any political party. If they can't work together, then they must go together. From Abdullah Abdul Razak General and Lamashigu Tamale. Mentioned NDC, and there's a demonstration that we're following. Kojang Singh is following that for us on the ground today because of the removal of the Electoral Commission. We'll bring you, as and when the demonstration kick-starts, we'll bring you all that here on the show. This one says, this is a government without emotions. 2 responsible women sacked in Nanado's regime, with a question mark. If care is not taken, Nana will end up sacking himself. Okay, this is where I will end it. Isaac Doda in Upper West region in Jirapa. There are lots of messages that we will come to a bit later on, but I think enough of the punishments.
Yes, and we know that tomorrow will be the 36th anniversary of the killing of the judges. We know that we have a documentary also coming up from the next month where we'll be serializing, but we'll give you a gist of that all on the channel today. But the Ghana Bar Association, in collaboration with the judiciary, they are convening a wreath-laying ceremony this morning at the forecourts of the Supreme Court, I believe. Yes. And we know that Justice Fred Opokusa Kodie, Justice Cecilia Cranting-Ado, and Justice Kweju Eje Japong were murdered in bizarre circumstances.
Alongside an army officer.
Yes, were murdered in some bizarre circumstances. And since then, especially in the Fourth Republic, we've had the Ghana Bar Association try as much as possible, if they could, to convene events in memory of those killings that took place today. And so we'll bring you all that ceremony, all that has been taking place, and the conversation around it this morning.
We will be live.
Yes, yes, definitely.
All right, straight out, Benedict Akwesi Dankwa is on standby. Senegal, our last hope, really. We're not in the knockout stages. Yeah. And they say this is the first time in how many years?
In 32 years. Ooh. That's the last time it happened was in 1982. Since then, we've always had an African team in the next stage of the competition, whether one of 16 quarterfinals. We've been there.
That's where we've ended, actually.
Yeah, that's where we've actually ended. And the last time we came close was in 2010. Was in 2010. So 32 years now. Every time we get African team in the round of 16 or in the quarterfinals. Yeah. So it's just unfortunate that Senegal, we all thought that we were going to do very well. Had to go out on fair play rules. That's why at times it's very important when you are playing not to receive so many yellow cards, because that's what caused them. They received as many as 4 yellow cards as against that of Japan, which was just 2.
It's normal for African teams because of the way we are heavily built.
And even in the game yesterday,
the caliber body. So we use the caliber body during the games.
But apart from that, all that we're expecting them to do was to draw. It's been difficult. Nigeria too.
They needed a draw, but you know, at times it's also important to take a look at some of these things. And I think that going into tournaments, I don't know if these players were told about the rules.
But they are professionals, aren't they? Professionals. Yeah, some of them play in some of the highest leagues, right?
No, but the league's rules are not the same as that of the World Cup.
No,
But
we're
I'm
talking
saying
about
that-
their professionalism.
I'm
You should
saying
be a
that
professional,
normally
know
when
the
we go
rules
for
of the game.
tournaments of this nature, we should be able to tell the players, let them know that the rules. That
Yeah.
in a case where it's the same point, same goals, these are the rules
It's
that will
okay,
be
Benedict,
used.
stop
So-
mourning. We have some Africans in
But
France,
I
in the
didn't
French national
enjoy-
team,
let's
and some
talk about
African.
hey, why do I keep saying
The Ghana.
Ghana?
You want Ghana- you had-
Belgium, England game. Am I the only person who didn't enjoy it? I was so disappointed.
It was boring.
I was so
I
disappointed.
watched the
reason why-
first half.
Yeah.
The reason being that both teams were avoiding to finish on top because of the routes. Because now England, after playing against Colombia, their route will be a little bit more because Switzerland and then Sweden. So if they qualify in their game against Colombia, if they beat them, that means they will go and play either Switzerland or Sweden in the quarterfinals, and gradually they'll be getting closer to the final. If you get to the final, you meet Brazil, you meet Argentina. That one there is do or die. But in the process of getting through the final,
Benedict, just hold on there. It's good that you are in black, but we know that it's not a good time for us as well. Mamavi, we're being told that it's been confirmed. I don't know whether we can make the official announcement. Can we? Okay.
Benedict has got full details of sports right after this. Stay with us. You're still watching the AM show.